e te rau e te rau nau mai ki tēnei o taka e kia ana ko te ata hihiko ki runga i te korimako o Taranaki e wā mā mōrena kōrero ana mātou ki tēte i manuhiri rongo nui puta wā nui ia Aotearoa ia Taranaki oki e kōrero ana mātou kia Charlotte Littlewood e pāna ki tēnei plan te kau ngā tau e hoa mā. Long-term plan mo te Taranaki Regional Council e te iwi ko ia te tiamana o tēnei rōpū. No reira e Charlotte e mihi ana kia koe nau mai ki Wanganui a tātou ki te korimako. Morena.
Morena.
Morena. Kia ora, Charlotte. Lovely to have you here. We always appreciate time where our councillors and local government can come in and talk to our people about what's good in our hood. So first of all, you could introduce yourself and tell us what your role is and what we're up to today.
Sure. Tēnā koutou katoa. Ko wera te wakapakaranga mai. I whanau mai o I Vanuatu, I tipuaki o Ranana, I Ranana. E noho ano o I Namotu. He kaiwhakahaere o te konahera arohi o Taranaki. So kia ora, I'm Charlotte Littlewood. I'm the chair of the Taranaki Regional Council. Originally Welsh ancestry and born in Vanuatu, but raised in London, and then have been living in Namutu for a fair few years. So that's a bit of background about myself.
Kia ora. Beautiful. What a lovely whakapapa. And no doubt they, the people of Vanuatu, they share some of these same things with us, especially around climate change and especially around the Taiaroa. So we're talking about the 10-year plan for the Taranaki Regional Council, and as many of our listeners know and viewers know that with the new government, there's a lot of proposed changes. But by the looks of things, and from what I've read in this 10-year plan, the long-term plan, is that Taranaki's just going to get on with it. We're going to do what Taranaki wants for ourselves. And I think that's a really good step in the right direction. So just firstly, Charlotte, could you summarise the main goals of the Taranaki Regional Council's long-term plan for 24 to 34?
Yeah, sure. So with us, it's always been about taking Taranaki forward in all dimensions, across environment, across thriving communities, thriving livelihoods, all those kind of things. So really, as a tagline of council, we talk about improving lifestyles, supporting livelihoods, and taking Taranaki forward. So those are the broad encompassing things, but it's all those well-beings that we talk about and how we move them forward all together to create a great region to live in.
Now there's six focus points for this, and I guess for many of our viewers and many of our listeners, these are going to be, heart touching. They're going to be right up there in your wakaaro on how we look after our taiao, how we look after the environment, how we look after our maunga, essentially. What are those six key focus areas identified in the plan, and why are they important for the region's future?
Yeah, so I'll go through them very briefly because there are six, so we'll take one. So one's around resource management, so how we set ourselves up for success. There's one around how we deal with fresh water and the investment needed there going forwards. There's one around climate change, so what the Regional Council needs to do. And there's three linked to kind of that biodiversity element. So there's one on, we have a possum control program where landowners have a responsibility to control possums. So we're just going to have a look at that and whether we take it in-house. There's something around how we can be better coordinated as a region across Indigenous biodiversity. And then there's another one around how we fund the predator-free Taranaki program going forwards, because we have had significant government funding, but that's coming to an end. So there's a call for council on whether we continue on our current levels or whether we step up more. So as a brief snapshot, those are the six key issues. And for us as a regional council, we'll keep doing the BAU, but we always go, okay, what are the key strategic things we need to do to move our region forward in the most important areas? So obviously freshwater resource management, climate change and biodiversity are kind of the key areas that you can imagine jump out when people think of the Taiaroa and what we need to do. So that was very much directing where we need to put the extra emphasis to move forward.
In the way people can submit and have their say on the long-term plan, it's got different options Now, many of the options and preferred options come with an extra cost. And at the end of the long-term plan, I read that there will be an increase in all areas, and all the three different areas of Taranaki. But at the end of the day, wānau if we stay as we are in the status quo, then there'll be no cost. There'll be no added debt or anything like that. However, if we really want to tackle some of these key areas and important areas to us and to the TRC, of course, that comes with added costs. Sort of how does the long-term plan propose to address the challenge of climate change and the RMA, changes to the RMA?
Yep. So with climate change, we're already doing some modelling work. So we kind of know at a region level broadly what might happen to the climate up to 2090 in modelling terms. But what we don't have is that budget to go and explore what that means for specific communities or specific ecosystems. So the climate change work is both putting some budget in there to really understand the impacts of climate change at a more local level. And then the region can then use that information. So people with businesses that rely on the climate or communities working out their way forwards, that's a really useful source of information going forward. And the other part is also us as a council making sure that we're doing our bit to reduce our emissions where possible. In resource management, there's been a lot of change. So obviously the previous government had a lot of change to the Resource Management Act with 2 new bills that have now been repealed, and the government signified they're going to do different things. But as you said, this is about us working out as a region what's important for us to do. So governments will come and go, and that's their mandate to set the legislative framework that affects us. But what can we control and what can we do? So something that the other government had required us to do that's now been taken to go is something called a regional spatial plan. So that's us as a region really thinking about where it's basically planning as a region around where there's going to be growth, where we need new infrastructure, where we need to protect the environment, where there might be flood issues or natural catastrophe issues, and really making sure that we're doing that planning really well as a whole region, not just within our district. So we think that's a really important thing. So we want to keep moving that forward. It's quite an expensive exercise, so it's going to be a gradual, but we think we need to keep and start some momentum on that. So those are the 2 issues around climate change and resource management.
It is a big one. And I remember a couple of years ago, we had some hui about the RMA, and it was just like way over the top of my head. I thought, it's so complicated, and it's I wouldn't say that it's outdated, but at least it gave the opportunity for both Māori and councils to work together when it comes to significant projects. So I guess moving forward, to put our best foot forward, we've got to make a plan that suits Taranaki, and I guess
absolutely. So, and I think when you look at I think when the reports come out around Hawke's Bay and Cyclone Gabrielle, people will start to see the importance of long-term spatial planning, particularly in making sure people aren't building housing or infrastructure in flood-prone areas or anything like that. So there's real benefits in terms of the region getting ready for climate resiliency as well.
Absolutely. And I have been reading some of those, and they're just like, where do we go from here? When is that next natural disaster going to happen where we're going to need this type of plan put in place? So I guess we're sort of at that stage right now, which is good. It's all about public feedback and letting people have their say when it comes to the long-term plan. And every 3 years, I believe, there is a long-term plan created, and I think to myself, gosh, there's so many plans, how have we got on with the last long-term plan and the plan before that? Could you give us some sort of idea, like, we have a 10-year plan, it's created every 3 years. How do we measure where we've actually achieved from the previous long-term plan until today?
There's a whole range of measures. So in the long-term plan, we have a range. Well, we have a very extensive range of KPIs, and so each year we report against those KPIs. So if you ever looked at our long-term plan, you'll see there's a whole stack of KPIs that go from environmental performance. So how are we doing on various freshwater measures? They go to how we're delivering programs. So there's a whole stack around things that we put in the last long-term plan. Have we delivered them as we said we would? And then there's also financial performance. So have we kept to our debt limits? Have we kept to our the budget surplus or deficit we were forecasting. So we report on that every year, and there's a really comprehensive annual plan. And generally we're on track. The main area that we know we're coming under pressure is our freshwater targets, and we've got a whole program of work looking at our freshwater plan on what we can do there, and also heaps of things that we can take forward for that. So that's how we keep ourselves accountable, and that's all published to the internet, so anyone can see how we're tracking and how we're doing.
Perfect. And how will the council incorporate the community input into the final version of the plan?
Yeah, sure. So we've got submissions open at the moment. There's a really easy to follow consultation document. As you said, there's for every option, we've put in 3 options or 2 or 3 options and what our preferred one is. So you can kind of see what the cost quality trade-offs are for each thing. So go to, the easiest thing is just go to the TRC website. So www.trc.gov.nz. That's going along the bottom. Excellent. Long-term plan. And there's also a great link on the front page of the TRC website. And there's a really comprehensive website there that will talk you through how to do a submission. Also, feel free to reach out to the council in any way that works for you if you have something to say. That's always welcome. Yeah, submissions closed 12th of April. And what we do is we also have hearings on the 6th to the 8th of May. So if you want to come in person and talk to your submission, you're very, very welcome to. We do love hearing from people, and we can ask questions to better understand your submission as well. So what we do is we take all that into account. Obviously, it's not... When we hear really strong community feedback from a large number of people, we really do take that into account, but it's not a kind of like the most people said this, the most people said that. It's kind of a broad range of things where we're there just to make the best decisions in the interests of the entire region. So we have to weigh up all the things we're hearing from people, but also what we know is the right thing to do in the long term for the region on the ground. So we have to weigh up all those things and then make our decision. And then we're held accountable for it each election. So if people don't agree with us, they have a democratic voice to exercise.
I know those can be some hotly contested seats at times. And I was actually at a hui down at the Stratford Chambers, and it was actually really good to see a wide, diverse lineup. I might add that, and I think it's really cool. And just touching on that, for many of our listeners, they're probably wondering, well, how do Māori get involved? Where does iwi come into this? And I guess we sit at many tables, and not often we have the power to make decisions that are ultimately Māori focused, but I do know that this is the case when it comes to TRC. So in what ways does the long-term plan address the specific interests and concerns of iwi and hapu, particularly in relation to land, water, and other taonga? Yeah. So as you said, we have committees that sit under council, and we have 3 iwi reps on our 2 main committees, and also a Maori constituency councillor who's brilliant and brings that in. And for this long-term plan process, we invited 3 additional iwi reps onto all the workshops, onto the council decision-making, to be there alongside us to guide our decision-making. And that was hugely valuable around the table, and we really appreciate those people coming along to that and feeding into the plan. So in terms of views, it's always dangerous to say that there's one concrete view, but one thing we always know we've got to invest in is iwi capability and capacity to be able to respond to us. So there's things around how we work together with iwi, hapu, Māori in general, to enable them to have the capacity and capability to feed in. So it's mainly investing in those spaces as well as always making sure that we understand the priorities of each hapu and iwi, and we're focusing on those. So as you see, freshwater is a major area, and we've had significant engagement through a Taiaroa arrangement with Ngā iwi o Taranaki that's been hugely valuable. So it's kind of developing that and building on that and making sure that the resourcing's there. Perfect. It really reminds me of a saying from Auntie Daisy Noble, who you probably know, and she talked about we shouldn't be just satisfied that our women, our rivers are swimmable, rather that our rivers be drinkable. And that always stood out for me when I first heard Auntie Daisy Noble say that. And I guess this is where Māori come in and have your say about what you think about the why. There's plenty of options on the table for you all to submit to. And I guess this is an encouragement, us talking to Charlotte this morning, to encourage everybody, all of our listeners, all of our viewers, Pākehā mai, Māori mai, haere, go and have a look, have a read if you want to. It's pretty plain and simple.
Yeah, it's very plain and simple. It's yeah. And you can, it's great to understand. I guess things like the freshwater plan that we're doing at the moment, or we will, going forward, that's very much the rules around freshwater. But this is how we resource to make sure that we can set the right rules, implement the rules, and do effective monitoring. So it's making sure that the puti is there to back up what we want to do in practice.
That's it. Lastly, Charlotte, before you take off, why is it important for Māori communities to engage with the long-term plan, and how can they benefit from its successful implementation? I guess that's where you were sort of just going.
Yeah, I mean, it's all our region. We just need to hear. It's really important to hear from everyone about there is that trade-off between what we can spend and what we can do, and there's an infinite number of things we'd love to do. So it's really important to hear from people around what their priorities are of where we focus our resources. And then we can look at that, respond to it, and make sure that where we decide to invest really reflects what the region wants. So really important to have your say. And it's, as you said, it's a really simple engagement process. Even if it's just giving an indication of what's important to you really quickly, that's just brilliant to have as well.
There's plenty of paper, and you can either submit online, or you can also submit in writing. You can also head to the council. You can head to the council yourself and pick up a hard copy. Anything, whatever works for people, really.
Whatever
works for people.
Yeah.
We're very
within reason, but
yeah. That's all good. Whākina mai o koutou, nei kōrero, e te iwi www.trc.govt.nz, long-term plan, really important kaupapa to all of us. Puta noa ia Taranaki o tira, puta noa ia Aotearoa Wānui. He mihi tēnei kia koe e Charlotte. She is, I just want to add here that she's the first wāhine to be the chairman for the TRC. So I think that's
making progress.
Any final words before you take off?
No, just thanks really for this opportunity. And yeah, please people read the plan, submit, and love to hear your views.
Awesome stuff. Kanoi te mihi atu kia koe te tuahine. Te whai wā kia mātou ki te kori mako Taranaki. Have a fantastic day.